For decades, the towering glass skyscraper was the ultimate symbol of corporate power, economic dominance, and human ambition. But today, behind those glittering facades lies a terrifying reality. These colossal towers are quietly dying from the inside out. Across the globe, commercial real estate is facing a silent, catastrophic collapse. A staggering $1.5 trillion debt bomb is ticking in the heart of our major cities. This is the story of how the remote work revolution broke the office market and why it threatens to drag down the global economy. To understand the scale of this crisis, we have to look at how the pandemic permanently altered human behavior. In March 2020, millions of workers left their office desks, thinking they would return in a few weeks. But weeks turned into months, and months turned into a permanent cultural shift. Workers realized they could do their jobs just as effectively from the comfort of their homes. Employers, meanwhile, saw an opportunity to slash massive overhead costs by reducing their office footprint. Today, average office occupancy rates in major cities like New York and San Francisco hover below 50%. This means that on any given day, half of the desks in these multi-billion-dollar buildings sit completely empty. For the owners of these buildings, this empty space is a financial death sentence. Commercial real estate operates on a simple formula. Tenant rent pays the mortgage. When tenants refuse to renew their leases, the landlord's income stream evaporates. And this leads us to the heart of the crisis, the massive wall of commercial debt. Unlike home mortgages, which are often fixed for 30 years, commercial loans are much shorter. Most commercial office loans are structured as 5 or 10-year interest-only loans. When these loans mature, the landlord must pay off the entire principal or, more commonly, refinance the loan. Between 2024 and 2026, over $1.5 trillion of commercial mortgage debt is scheduled to mature. But refinancing in today's economy has become a near-impossible task. To combat inflation, central banks have raised interest rates at the fastest pace in decades. Landlords who locked in loans at 3% interest rates are now facing refinancing rates of 8% or higher. At the same time, the value of these office buildings has plummeted. With fewer tenants and higher interest rates, many office towers have lost 40 to 60% of their value. This creates a toxic combination. Landlords owe more on their loans than the buildings are actually worth. Faced with this reality, many prominent real estate developers are choosing to walk away. They are simply handing the keys of their empty buildings back to the banks, defaulting on their loans. But the banks do not want these empty buildings. They cannot afford to run them. This has triggered what economists call the urban doom loop. When office buildings sit empty, the surrounding ecosystem of downtown businesses begins to die. The local cafes, lunch spots, bars, and dry cleaners that relied on daily foot traffic are forced to close. As businesses close, downtown areas become deserted, leading to a rise in crime and public safety concerns. Public transit systems, which rely on commuter fares, face massive budget deficits and are forced to cut services. This makes commuting even less attractive, driving the final nail in the coffin of the office routine. But the most dangerous consequence of the doom loop is the collapse of city tax revenues. Commercial properties are the single largest source of property tax revenue for major cities. When office values drop, property tax collections plummet, leaving cities with massive budget deficits. To fill these deficits, cities are forced to cut public services, reduce police and fire budgets, and raise other taxes. This decline in quality of life drives residents and businesses away, creating a spiral of urban decay. Yet, the crisis is not confined to city borders. It is a threat to the banking system. Regional and small banks are particularly exposed to this ticking time bomb. Unlike megabanks, regional banks hold a disproportionate amount of commercial real estate loans on their books. In fact, small and mid-sized banks hold nearly 70% of all outstanding office property debt. If landlords default on a massive scale, these banks will face catastrophic losses. This could trigger a wave of bank failures, similar to the collapse of Silicon Valley Bank in 2023. And the contagion would not stop at regional banks. It would impact pension funds and insurance companies. These institutions invested heavily in commercial mortgage-backed securities, seeking stable returns. Now, the value of those investments is crumbling. threatening the retirement savings of millions of ordinary citizens. So, how can we solve this crisis, and what does the future hold? One proposed solution is to convert these empty office buildings into residential apartments. It sounds like a perfect win-win, solving the housing crisis while saving empty skyscrapers. But in reality, office-to-residential conversions are incredibly complex and expensive. Most modern office towers are built with deep floor plates, meaning the center of the building has no access to natural light. Plumbing, electrical, and HVAC systems designed for offices cannot easily be reconfigured for individual apartments. For most buildings, it is cheaper to demolish the structure and rebuild from scratch than to convert it. This means that conversions will only save a tiny fraction of the vacant office space. The rest of these towers will remain vacant, slowly deteriorating over time. This represents a fundamental shifting of our urban geography. For a century, our cities were designed around a centralized core, the central business district. Every morning, millions of people commuted into this core. Every evening, they commuted out. This model of city design is now obsolete. We are moving towards a decentralized model where people live, work, and socialize in their local neighborhoods. This is the 15-minute city concept, where all daily necessities are within a short walk or bike ride. While this is good for local communities, it leaves the central business districts in a state of limbo. Some office towers will be acquired by universities, medical centers, or municipal governments. Others will be converted into high-tech urban farms, data centers, or indoor storage facilities. But many will simply stand as modern ruins, monuments to an era of work that no longer exists. The economic impact of this transition will be felt for decades. Taxpayer bailouts of regional banks may become necessary to prevent a broader financial crash. Cities will have to reinvent their economic models, shifting away from commercial real estate taxes. And developers will think twice before ever building a traditional office tower again. We are witnessing the birth pains of a new way of organizing human labor and society. The corporate office was once the center of our lives. Now, it is a relic of the past. The buildings are not going anywhere, but the purpose they served is gone forever. And the financial bill for this transformation is about to arrive in full. The $1.5 trillion debt wall is maturing, and the defaults are starting to rise. The coming years will decide whether our cities adapt to this change or crumble under the weight of the debt. One thing is certain: the era of the centralized corporate skyscraper is officially over. And the ultimate price of this silent death of cinema and office work has yet to be calculated.